Today, we embark upon a great journey into the world of Neo Geo. I am your host, or should I say, I am your co-host, Tiberius. Today, we will dive into one of the greats, a fighting game with beautiful and bright sprites, great combos, and fantastic soundtracks. This very game has a flame, a rage from the very belly of the greatest of dragons. Rage of Dragons is that game. Join me and join Retro Neo-ness in this fantastic episode of Mission Neo Geo. Welcome, my friends. I am Tiberius, co-host of this wonderful series, Mission Neo Geo.
Time out. Thanks, Ty. I'm gonna take over from here. What it is, it's your guy Retro Neo-ness. We're gonna talk about Rage of Dragons. What were you doing September of 2002? If I go back, and I'm dating myself, I was still in early high school, or actually no, I was just about to graduate high school. Or I was back in high school, was it? Was it high school? I don't know. It was sometime around there. But it's a tag team head-to-head fighting game, and it was released on the AES, and at this time, this was around the time that Playmore had basically all the rights to SNK. And it was actually developed by a Japanese company called Noise Factory. It was co-developed by Brezasoft, and it was chiefly designed by Mexican video game company Evoga. So as of, I think it was May 2020, Pico Entertainment had acquired the game's IP and had expressed interest in using it in some way. So ports for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series are scheduled for future releases, but I mean, that was what, 2021 when it was announced, and we still don't have a port for Rage of Dragons, which is really unfortunate considering how good that game is. It's really smooth. The combo system is very reminiscent. I'm not going to say it's crazy like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but if we're talking about the classic smooth transitions between tag team characters, etc., it's on par with some of the top King of Fighters games, and I'm inclined to think Capcom vs. SNK 2, it actually does a really good job. Now, Rage of Dragons features a tag team system in which the player takes control of two characters and can switch between one or the other during gameplay. The character who is not being controlled will slowly recover. So think of it like Tekken Tag Tournament. You know, you tag in one of the characters and they've taken some significant damage. You tag out, and then that character gets some time to rest for the remaining life bar that they have. That's pretty much what it is. The player can perform special combos in which both characters attack an opponent at the same time for added damage. So double team combo damage, which is really awesome. And then it has an auxiliary meter located at the bottom of the screen that slowly fills up, and an attack connects with an opponent. Counter attacks, EX moves, super moves, etc. Your basic fighting game mechanics, you'll see it there. Now, funny enough, Rage of Dragons was kind of a unofficial sequel to Double Dragon, and in that particular case you were used to seeing Billy Lee, Jimmy Lee. Well, in Rage of Dragons it's actually Billy Lewis and Jimmy Lewis, and in this particular story, the famous Billy is a street racer and a master of a martial art. And then Jimmy takes a darker turn after the death of his girlfriend Maria, which Marin. Jimmy abandons his brother and becomes a street fighter. So the story is kind of different, and it's got some various groups of individuals in here, and there's two bosses. So two bosses who are fought by the player at the end of the single player tournament. Unlike regular characters, these bosses only fought by themselves, having no partners. So Bubo, which would be Adobo in the original, and then Johan, the leader of an underground cult. So reception wise, when this game was released, it was kind of ranked in the top 20 games. I think it was ranked top 13 in terms of SNK's best fighting games. Excellent game for the late 2D era, and I think, to be honest, had this game had been released earlier in the life cycle of the Neo Geo, it would probably be one of the best fighters for the console. Now, some of these characters actually made their way into Matchroom Melee, and if you ask me, I still don't have Matchroom Melee in my collection. I will eventually. I'm not in any rush to get it. I'm just not a fan of Matchroom Melee. I think it was rushed. It wasn't very polished. The game just didn't do justice for the amount of characters that it had, and some of the solid characters like Jimmy that were in that game, come on, you got to do it right. If you're gonna have Double Dragon characters or clones of Double Dragon characters, you gotta make sure it's done correctly. Unlike, like I said, the original Double Dragon was produced by Technos, and a lot of the games for Double Dragon were produced by this company. The franchise is now the property of Arc System Works, and it's the company that ported the original Double Dragon to the Master System console back in 1988. So we've seen some remakes, etc., on the Switch, the PlayStation, etc., from Arc Systems, but Technos originally had the licensing rights to Double Dragon, which we found the original Double Dragon on the AES. This one actually had a Euro release, so technically it wasn't released in the US, but it was an English version that was released for the Neo Geo AES. I do have it on MVS. It's actually a really good game. It actually adopts a lot of the character attributes from the actual Double Dragon movie that you may have seen. I recently acquired a lot of Neo Geo posters, and I had the opportunity to get them framed. And just to show, I have a few Rage of Dragons posters. Now, the one with the white background with Jimmy and Billy, this one's a pretty common one that, you know, was with part of the pre-order releases, etc. Some of the things that you would have probably found in Japan, and some of the late title releases in the US. And then also there is the black background Rage of Dragons. So there's a marquee that I had framed. I don't have a big MVS cabinet, so why not go ahead and get one of these awesome marquees framed and preserved. Now let's go over the game itself. Now, as you can see here, I've got the snap case, which is great condition, and this actually offers one of two inserts, right? So you have the Rage of Dragons modern insert, which I'm showing right here and showcasing, and this is generally what you would see. This is one of 6 games that offers the classic insert for the game, and as you can see, this has a classic insert for Rage of Dragons to give it that retro Euro spine look, and I think this looks phenomenal on the shelf with the other games. Don't get me wrong, the modern insert is a great, awesome look, and it pops. It's got a lot of vibrant colors with a lot of the characters, but if you ask me, I'm always going to go for the classic insert. It's just something I truly enjoy with a lot of the collecting. In terms of the manual, you'll see a couple of the caution stickers, etc. And the cart sticker, this one has been used. I played this game quite often, so it's got some insertion marks, and I would not classify this game as mint condition. So in terms of recently sold, there's not anything crazy, but if you see, there's a Japanese one on eBay that sold back in early November for $3,500. That's pretty significant. And if you were to estimate, like, Ness, what does an English version of this game go for? Well, the English version of Rage of Dragons without a classic insert would probably start somewhere in the realm of $4,000 US to upwards to $6,000. Now, if we're talking about with a classic insert and it's in mint condition, you're probably looking somewhere in the realm of $5,000 to $6,500 US in mint condition. Folks, again, we've talked about this on many videos. If we have a game, a Neo Geo AES game, no discoloring, no fading, no tears, no water damage, no moisture damage. The manual is mint, no bends, no creases. It has the baggie to the manual. The insert is mint. Everything on the snap case looks good and phenomenal, and there's next to no insertion marks on the cartridge. That is classified as a mint condition. Too many times we go on these websites like eBay and folks are asking top dollar for games that are, one, missing a manual, they've got water damage, or they're torn or they're faded, etc. That brings a significant dent into the value of that game. As we go through this series with Mission Neo Geo, we are going to talk about that. Each individual game is going to have a price range, and as we continue the conversation, there are going to be many games that are going to be extremely affordable, and there's going to be some that are extremely high priced, and it's going to require you, if you're a heavy collector and you're really into going after a full set, whether that's Japanese or English, and we're just talking about for AES collecting, we're not talking about MVS, and we're not talking about doing, ports and emulation or anything like that. We're talking about physical copies being collected. Make sure that you take note of these things. Always ask for high-res photos. Always double check if it's not a reputable seller that you're unfamiliar with. Always ask for references. Who have they sold to? Do other people in the community know this seller? There's too many times this year we've seen many people coming out of the woodwork and scamming folks out of thousands of dollars for Neo Geo games. It happens in every video game community, but it is a significant damage to the community and certain reputations if we don't take our time to do our due diligence and do just a little bit of research before we fork over the money. I get it. There's tons of awesome games out there, and there's small windows and pockets throughout the years that we may see a game that we've been after for years, months, whatever. But don't rush, slow down, take your time, do your due diligence, make sure what you're buying is real. Make sure what you're buying isn't a counterfeit, isn't a bootleg, etc. It's just one thing to think about. Now, in terms of counterfeits, you generally don't see that with Rage of Dragons. Rage of Dragons has a cult following, but it wasn't one of the most popular games on the Neo Geo. From my experience over the last couple years, haven't seen one that's been made into a conversion, but that doesn't stop would-be fake bootleggers out there from creating a game to make a couple of bucks. So when it's all said and done, if you want to play this game, I highly recommend it. And out of 1 to 5, I give this game the NES 4.5. So this game is definitely a high recommend. Have you played this game? Drop comments down below. And Tiberius, what are your thoughts? You think you can beat me in this?
But I am a better player, Ness. Your skills are diminished. You haven't practiced in many years. You're weak. We will remedy that, for I am a grandmaster of the Neo Geo. I, Tiberius alone, will embark on this journey. Perhaps I might bring you along with me. Maybe I will become the full host of this show. But I mustn't lose my coolness. Never.
I also want to bring attention to my friends at Minty. Now, this isn't a sponsored video, but my friends at Minty and I have been talking over the last few months about Neo Geo. A lot of times, many other video game consoles get a lot of love when it comes to data analytics behind what the price or the current market price for a game is, what the condition is, what's all included, etc. We see a lot of data behind that for fellow collectors on the Nintendo side, the Sega side, etc. People tend to be a little bit more reserved when it comes to Neo Geo just because there isn't a lot of knowledge out there. I hope to change that. And with Minty, they are really taking a deep dive into data analytics behind recent solds. Now, I get it. Many of you are private collectors, private sellers, and a lot of that information won't make it into this database. But Minty is looking at eBay solds, they're looking at potential Amazon solds, and then in the future, they want to bring in additional data resources to really bring in and hone true Neo Geo data, so that way you, the collector, can also have a really sound understanding of what the true price is for your games. So they're a new site. I think is a great way to start. If you haven't checked them out, please go take a look at Minty, and I'll drop a link down in the description in terms of what their site's all about. They really look at the high quality mint. That's just in the name, Minty. They're looking at the mint condition game, and then they escalate it down from there. So if you're a collector that wants to know the true price of your game based off of condition, Minty's a great way to start looking at your games. So over the next couple of months, as you start seeing me talk about Minty more and they start adding more data analytics for our Neo Geo community, that's going to be awesome. So I definitely recommend that you go and check them out. Still early site, so stay tuned. You'll see more over the next couple of months. So appreciate my friends at Minty for giving me an opportunity to take a look at the site and add some insights in terms of Neo Geo. Collect and play the way that you want to collect and play your games. And Tiberius, take us home.
Join in next week where we will embark on a new game, diving into its wonderful and rich history, its fabulous gameplay, and try to dig in deep to find the true secrets behind this established game, this established console. There's more to come. So hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, because there shall be more every week of Mission Neo Geo. And if I haven't already said it before, thank you again. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night to you. Next episode is to be continued. See you again.